Regardless of the type of rental property you have, one of the questions that comes up is how do I maximize my return on investment? How do I maximize my cash flow? What kinds of things should I do to that unit to make the most money? And at the risk of being vague, I'm going to start with it depends, because the answer is different for a $40,000 condo than it is for a $500,000 single-family home. You know, in one case, anything less than granite will mean you're never going to rent it, and in the other case, granite would be such overkill that if, you know, so it does depend on the unit that you have. As a general rule, I would say you should just be very aware of what you have chosen as a product and the ideal candidate for that product, and then handle your unit accordingly. For maximum return on investment, I'm always going to lean to more bulletproof. You know that the property is going to have wear. Even if it's normal wear and tear, vinyl is going to be replaced more often than carpet. Carpet's going to be replaced more often than tile. So pay attention to some of those details. In my units, I will lean toward, even on a lower end unit where in the complex vinyl is very acceptable, I'm the guy who's going to lean toward putting tile in, just because I know I'm going to be dealing with replacement costs less often and I'm making an investment in the long haul. I know there are lots of other investors who are very successful just replacing the vinyl when it gets torn or worn. No necessary right or wrong answers, but in my units I do tend toward bulletproof. So I would rather go with a Corian countertop than a laminate countertop, and those things that I think are going to be less likely to have to be replaced as the unit turns over. If you have a more short-term strategy, that coaching wouldn't apply anymore. If you're going to be in and out of a unit in a year or two, then you're going to want to spend as little money as possible to attract the ideal tenant. But the real ingredient in all of this is who is your ideal tenant for that unit. And if you're surrounded by similar rentals and the income range for your unit is going to be very well defined, for, you know, if they're making above this point, they're going to be shopping for a different type of product, and if they make below this point, they're not going to be able to afford yours. And no matter where you are in that whole spectrum of rentals, there's going to be that bracket in income that is going to be the target audience for your unit. Just be aware of what they're looking for. As long as there is a long-term return, for example, if in that bracket and the units that I'm shopping for, if that's my unit, laminate countertops are perfectly acceptable. The only reason to go anything nicer is if you feel like you'll save money over the life of your investment by having Corian or granite. And I would say that you could make an argument for granite in all your units if you felt like I'm going to own it for 20 years and it'll save me some replacement. So the big it depends on that is how long am I going to hold it, who am I trying to attract, and a nicer finish will always attract the topper end of that bracket for whatever unit that you're in. Just make sure it makes money sense to go a little nicer.